It was a brisk autumn morning in Philadelphia, the sun casting a golden glow over the historic city's old brick buildings and bustling sidewalks. The usual rhythm of the city moved with purpose, workers in suits hurrying to meetings, students rushing to class, and the forgotten, those who lived in the shadows of society, huddling near subway vents for warmth. What no one expected that morning was the arrival of Barron Trump, the 19-year-old son of the sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. He arrived without the convoy, without the security motorcade, and without the media fanfare that usually followed members of the first family. Dressed in a simple navy hoodie, worn jeans, and a plain black cap pulled low over his forehead, Barron looked more like a college student out for a walk than the heir of a political dynasty. Barron had grown up in luxury, but over the past year, something had changed. He had taken a gap year after high school, not to party in Monaco or vacation in the Alps, but to explore the heart of America. He said to one of his close friends during a private dinner, "How can I claim to lead or even influence the future if I don't understand the people who've been left behind?" And so, on that morning, Barron walked alone through Kensington Avenue, one of the most affected areas in Philadelphia, rife with poverty, addiction, and homelessness. He didn't bring cameras or social media. His presence was intended to be silent, observant, and sincere. As he walked, he passed by tents made of blue tarps, people curled up under blankets beside dumpsters, and others shuffling around in tattered clothes. The scent of damp concrete and the quiet murmurs of desperation filled the air. And then he saw her, an elderly woman with white hair in a messy bun, sitting against a crumbling wall, scribbling something into a journal. Her name was Martha Jennings, 74 years old, a retired public school teacher who had lost her pension during a financial scam in 2012. No family, no savings, no home. Barron approached her gently. "Good morning, ma'am," he said quietly. She looked up, her tired eyes scanning him suspiciously. "You lost, kid?" "No, ma'am," he smiled. "Just walking." "You look too clean to be walkin' round here," she chuckled with a raspy voice. Barron sat down beside her on the cold concrete. For 20 minutes, they talked. She told him how she taught third-grade English for 31 years, how her retirement fund vanished in a Ponzi scheme, and how the system simply forgot her. She now relied on handouts from a local soup kitchen and collected bits of recyclable trash for coins. "What are you writing in your book?" he asked gently. "Stories," she replied. "Everyone here has one. I write them down. Helps me remember we still matter." That stuck with Barron deeply. He stayed in Kensington for 3 days, sleeping at a shelter under a different name. No cameras, no press, and on the third day he vanished again. No one even knew he had been there until what happened next shook the nation. A week passed, and whispers began to spread online. A blurry cell phone photo appeared on a local Reddit thread. Someone had snapped a shot of a tall young man sitting beside a homeless woman in Kensington. In the background, a mural of Benjamin Franklin could be seen. The poster wrote, "Saw this dude talking to Martha, the old teacher who lives by 12th Street. Thought he looked familiar. Real respectful. Sat with her for like half an hour. Didn't act like he was better than anyone." At first, it was brushed off as a look-alike. But then more people began to post similar sightings. A shelter volunteer anonymously shared that a young man named Brandon King had stayed with them for 2 nights, helped serve food, and donated his own sneakers to a teenage boy with frostbitten toes. Then came the undeniable clue. A scrap of handwriting Martha Jennings had carefully written into her journal. "Kindness doesn't need a title." That young man, he had the soul of a leader, not the name of one. Entry dated October 17th, 2025. Someone online compared the handwriting to a note Barron Trump had left on a graduation message board earlier that year. The match was uncanny. Soon, the truth exploded on social media. Barron Trump spotted helping homeless in Philly. President's son living like the people. No security, no privilege. Was that really Barron? What's his mission? The White House refused to comment. But behind closed doors, President Trump was briefed. Though caught off guard, he chose not to interfere. As a father, he was concerned, but he was also proud. Barron had always been different, quiet, observant, compassionate. He wasn't interested in power for power's sake. He wanted purpose. Then a video was leaked, an internal recording from a youth shelter. Barron had spoken to a group of homeless teens. In the grainy footage, he stood at the front of a room with peeling paint and flickering lights. No teleprompter, no suit, just a hoodie and worn sneakers. "I'm not here because of who my father is," Barron said in a calm voice. "I'm here because of what my country has become. Too many of you were never given a fair shot. And too many people in power don't want to look you in the eye. But I do, because you matter. Every single one of you matters." The video went viral overnight. Millions shared it across platforms. Hashtags like hashtag Barron in the streets, hashtag Hope Walks, and hashtag We Matter Too trended for days. But what followed wasn't just social media clout. It was action. Within 72 hours, Barron's private team, made up of young volunteers from different states, launched a new initiative called the Bridge Project. Its mission? To build bridges between marginalized communities and those in power. The first goal: establish 15 shelters across America run not by corporations, but by formerly homeless citizens themselves. Barron personally contributed $5 million from a private trust fund, but he refused to put his name on the project. "It's not about me," he told the board. "It's about them." 1 week later, he returned to Kensington. But this time, people knew. Martha Jennings was waiting for him, holding her journal. "You came back," she said, tears in her eyes. "I had to," Barron replied. "You gave me the story. Now let's give the world a better one." The buzz around the Bridge Project wasn't just media noise, it sparked a movement. What had started as a quiet, personal journey by the president's son was quickly becoming a national awakening. By late November, just a month after Barron's walk in Kensington, the first Bridge Project Center opened its doors in North Philadelphia. Unlike other shelters, this place was co-designed by the homeless themselves. There were no metal detectors at the entrance. No forms demanding ID. No cold, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Instead, the center featured a cozy library corner, warm beds with actual sheets, lockers with coded keys so no one's belongings would be stolen, and most importantly, a life stories room where people could write, record, or share their personal journeys, just like Martha Jennings had once done in her journal. The first night the center opened, over 140 people arrived. One of them, Darnell Cooper, a 28-year-old Iraq veteran who had been living under a bridge near I-676, spoke with tears in his eyes to a local reporter. "This place don't feel like charity. It feels like dignity." Barron, who quietly attended the opening with a baseball cap and hood pulled low, watched from the back of the room. He didn't speak. He didn't pose for photos. He simply watched as the people took the place over, not as guests, but as owners of a second chance. That same night, he received a call from his father, President Trump, who for the first time publicly acknowledged his son's actions. "You're shaking things up, son," the president said. "This is bigger than just charity. This is leadership. And I'm proud of you." But not everyone was pleased. Some political pundits called Barron's actions performative altruism. Critics on cable news questioned his motives, labeling it a publicity stunt to soften the president's image ahead of the next election. Barron refused to engage. He posted one message on X, formerly Twitter. "If helping people is seen as political, then we've truly lost our way. I'm not here to win votes. I'm here to help humans. Period." At Barron Trump. That post alone was reshared 8 million times in 24 hours. Suddenly, celebrities, musicians, teachers, and even veterans began pledging to support the Bridge Project. By early December, funding poured in from all over the world, anonymous donors from Denmark, schoolchildren in Brazil raising funds, and even a retired school principal from Oregon who sold her antique piano and donated every cent. But none of that compared to what Barron did next. He returned to Kensington, this time with Martha Jennings at his side, and held an open community town hall right there on the streets, under a giant mural that was just completed, a painting of Martha sitting with her journal and Barron beside her, listening. Hundreds came. They didn't want speeches. They wanted stories. And that's what Barron gave them. For 2 hours, he handed the mic to the homeless, the addicted, the lost, the broken, and gave them a voice. And then he said this: "If the most powerful nation in the world can put a man on the moon, build billion-dollar rockets, and send celebrities to space, then why can't we give every citizen a bed, a meal, and a shot at redemption?" Silence. And then thunderous applause. Not just from those attending, but from millions watching the live stream online. By Christmas, Philadelphia wasn't just a city of brotherly love, it was the epicenter of a revolution in compassion. The bridge project had now launched satellite hubs in 5 additional cities: Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis, Cleveland, and Albuquerque. Not through government red tape or multi-year funding packages, but through grassroots organization, private donations, and a growing army of volunteers led by former homeless individuals who now called themselves the Rebuilders. Barron Trump never gave interviews, never asked for credit. But wherever the bridge went, hope seemed to follow. Then came the letter. On December 22nd, a handwritten letter addressed to the White House was leaked online. It was from Jamal Rivers, a 12-year-old boy from Philadelphia whose father had died of an overdose and whose mother was working 2 jobs to keep them fed. In the letter, Jamal wrote, "Dear Mr. Barron Trump, I saw you walking in our streets. My uncle said you were the president's son, but you didn't act fancy. You looked at people like they were people, not trash. I want to be like you when I grow up. Not cause of your last name, but cause you didn't run away from the pain. You walked toward it. Thank you for not forgetting us. Your friend, Jamal Rivers." The letter hit the nation like a tidal wave. News anchors read it live, teary-eyed. Late-night hosts paused their comedy bits. Even rival politicians across party lines acknowledged its impact. Suddenly, the story wasn't about politics anymore. It was about humanity. That same week, Barron made his first public statement since the beginning of the movement. He appeared at a Christmas Eve vigil in Philadelphia's Love Park, surrounded by hundreds of candles lit for those who had died on the streets in 2025, over 9,000 people nationwide. Standing beside Martha Jennings, Jamal Rivers, and several formerly homeless veterans, Barron took the microphone. "Somewhere along the line, we confused poverty with failure. We started believing people who fell were weak. But I've seen strength in these streets that no boardroom, no luxury tower could ever teach. This country doesn't need another hero in a cape. It needs listeners, healers, rebuilders. And if a kid from a tower in New York can walk beside a teacher from the streets of Philly and find purpose, maybe there's still hope for us all." The crowd stood in silence. Some cried. Others simply stared at the young man who had become an unlikely voice for the voiceless. Later that night, footage surfaced of Barron quietly helping distribute blankets at a train station. No cameras. Just a boy with a bag full of warmth. And then, Time magazine did something unexpected. They named Barron Trump Person of the Year 2025, not for political influence, but for being the quiet heart that reminded America of its soul. By the time January rolled in, the bridge project wasn't just a national effort, it had gone global. News agencies from Europe, South America, and Asia ran headlines like, "President's Son Sparks Humanitarian Revival in America." Barron Trump's walk through poverty inspires the planet. From Kensington to Kigali, the bridge project spreads worldwide. In Paris, a group of university students started their own version, Le Pont, inspired directly by Barron's movement. In Nairobi, a Kenyan pastor referenced Barron's story in a Sunday sermon. And in Tokyo, a businessman donated an entire building to house homeless youth, citing the Philadelphia model. Back in the US, something was changing. Cities that had once criminalized homelessness were beginning to rethink their policies. Mayors from both Republican and Democrat-led municipalities reached out to the bridge project to establish community-designed hubs. Not one of them was rejected. Barron's only condition? The community must help design the shelter. No red tape, no bureaucracy. Just people helping people. But while the movement was blossoming, Barron remained humble. He still walked the streets of Philadelphia, mostly unrecognized in his hoodie and scarf. He still visited Martha Jennings every week, and he still met with youth like Jamal, helping them with school applications, job referrals, and most of all, encouragement. Then came the night that would be remembered forever. It was the final night of January. Snow was falling softly over the city. Barron was speaking at a gathering held in the newly finished Freedom Center, a massive facility funded entirely by private donations that combined a shelter, a job training center, and an art space for youth. The lights dimmed. A video montage played, showing clips of formerly homeless individuals now working, creating art, rebuilding their lives. The final clip showed Jamal Rivers, now in a new school uniform, holding up a sketch of himself and Barron. And then Jamal walked on stage. "I'm not here to say thanks. I'm here to say it's my turn now. To help others like Mr. Barron helped me." The audience rose. Applause thundered through the room. And Barron? He wiped his eyes, stepped aside, and let Jamal take the spotlight. He never wanted to be the story. He wanted to change it. That night, Barron Trump released one final statement to the public posted across all his social media channels. I didn't walk the streets to be seen. I walked them to see. I saw pain but also purpose. I saw struggle but also strength. If we, as a country, stop walking past the broken, we might find we're the ones being made whole. Keep building bridges. I'll be walking beside you. Barron. Years later, historians would look back at the winter of 2025 as the moment America woke up. They wouldn't remember fancy laws or televised debates. They would remember a tall, quiet young man walking down the cold streets of Philadelphia. No cameras. No titles. Just a purpose. And the world would remember how one walk became a movement and how the president's son became the people's brother.